hardly remember how it started out, but now I lift my head high up with a shout of all praise to Yahweh. Oh, I know something was missing from my life, and now I serve him, walking on in the light of his ways all of my days. I read his word and it gives me all hope. Nothing else takes the place of this, I know. Sweeter than honey and more wealthy than gold are his ways. So I say, living for Yahweh, ain't no other way to live. Oh, loving my neighbor, looking for ways to give, calling on his name, helping the poor, keeping the Sabbath day, and so much more. I can finally say that I'm living for Yahweh. I go assemble with all of the saints, pray together and then sing songs about him, and to him it's so sweet. Then the feast days, they do roll back around, shadows about the Messiah I found them to be. So don't judge me. I read his word and it gives me all hope, but nothing else takes the place of this, I know. Sweeter than honey, more wealthy than gold are his ways. So I say, living for Yahweh, ain't no other way to live. Loving my neighbor, oh, and looking for ways to give, calling on his name, helping the poor, keeping the Sabbath day, and so much more. I can finally say that I'm living for Yahweh. Oh, yes, there are times when I start feeling weak, but I've got brothers and sisters that keep telling me at the end of the street we will see our great King. And we're living for Yahweh. Oh, ain't no other way to live. Loving my neighbor, I've been looking for ways to give, calling on his name, helping the poor, keeping the Sabbath day, and so much more. I can finally say that I'm living for Yahweh.
On mute. Hello and welcome to Kingdom in Context. I'm Sean, and thank you for joining us here for our Sabbath Fellowship live stream. And Shabbat Shalom, sweetie.
Shabbat Shalom, babe.
Thank you for joining us here for this. I hope you guys are. We've been gone a couple weeks because we were sick, but we're back. We're kind of healthy.
Yeah, I might have to step away occasionally and blow my nose. I'm still not quite over that part of everything.
I may have to turn the mic off and cough a whole bunch, but we're back. We're here. And we are trying to get back into Jeremiah 16 through 18 is where we left off last time. So hopefully you guys are excited to finish up Jeremiah. Anything you need to say or announce before we get started?
Just thanks for joining us. We missed you guys. Sorry we were gone.
Yeah, sure. All right. So chapter 16, it says, "This the word of the Lord came to me, saying, you must not marry or have sons or daughters in this place. For this is what the Lord says concerning the sons and daughters born in this place, and the mothers who bore them, and the fathers who fathered them in this land. They will die from deadly diseases. They will not be mourned or buried, but will lie like dung on the ground. They will be finished off by the sword and famine, and their corpses will become food for the birds of the air and beasts of the earth. Indeed, this is what Yahweh says: do not enter a house where there is a funeral meal. Do not go to mourn or show sympathy, for I have removed from this people, my peace, my loving devotion, and my compassion, declares Yahweh. Both great and small will die in this land. They will not be buried or mourned, nor will anyone cut himself or shave his head for them. No food will be offered to comfort those who mourn the dead. Not even a cup of consolation will be given for the loss of a father or mother. You must not enter a house where there's feasting and sit down with them to eat and drink. For this is what Yahweh of hosts, the God of Israel, says: I'm going to remove from this place before your very eyes and in your days the sounds of joy and gladness, the voices of the bride and the bridegroom. When you tell these people all these things, they're going to ask you, why has the Lord pronounced all this great disaster upon us? What's our iniquity? What is the sin that we've committed against Yahweh our God? Then you are to answer them, it's because your fathers have forsaken me, declares Yahweh, and followed other gods and served and worshipped them. They abandoned me and did not keep my instruction, and you have done more evil than your fathers. See how each of you follows the stubbornness of his evil heart instead of obeying me. So I will cast you out of this land into a land that neither you nor your fathers have known. There you will serve other gods day and night, for I will show you no favor. Yet behold, the days are coming, declares Yahweh, when they will no longer say, as surely as Yahweh lives, who brought the Israelites up out of the land of Egypt. Instead, they will say, as surely as Yahweh lives, who brought the Israelites up out of the land of the north and all the other lands to which he had banished them. For I will return them to their land that I gave to their forefathers. But for now, I will send for many fishermen, declares Yahweh, and they will catch them. After that, I will send for many hunters, and they will hunt them down on every mountain and hill, even from the clefts of the rocks. For my eyes are on all their ways. They are not hidden from my face, and their guilt is not concealed from my eyes. And I will first repay them double for their iniquity and their sin, because they've defiled my land with the carcasses of their detestable idols. They've filled my inheritance with their abominations. O Lord, my strength and my fortress, my refuge in the day of distress. The nations will come to you from the ends of the earth, and they will say, our fathers inherited nothing but lies, worthless idols of no benefit at all. Can you make gods for himself? Such are not gods. Therefore, behold, I will inform them, and this time I will make them known, my power and my might. Then they will know that my name is Yahweh. Okay, more. We should probably have developed a running tally for how many chapters of pronounced judgment is happening in the book of Jeremiah.
Yeah, it's probably like 95%.
Yeah, it's just like constantly like you got, and this is the second time I think I can remember that the people are acting coy.
Yeah.
They're like, what have we done?
Yeah.
What do you mean? He's like, yeah, you're worshiping idols. You're doing evil things, more evil than your fathers even. You're serving other gods. What do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, give you the holy backhand. What are you talking about? Quit trying to act dumb with me.
Yeah, there's no fifth to plead here.
Yeah, it really is weird. It's just a weird, I don't even know if this is cogdis or it's just simply they're so far down inside their iniquity. They're sitting there thinking, well, wait a minute, everything we're doing is normal. What are we doing that's wrong?
You know, really, it's the epitome of a seared conscience. I mean,
because if they're doing polytheism, which we know they are according to Ezekiel and earlier chapters in Jeremiah, then they think that they're okay to worship these other idols in all these horrific ways and then try to go to the house of Yahweh and worship him. And nobody's raising their hand to think for 2 seconds, hey, wait a minute, why isn't Yahweh asking us to sacrifice all this, our children and people, and why aren't we drinking blood at the house of Yahweh? Why aren't we doing this horrific sexual stuff at the house of Yahweh? Like, it's so weird. But I do know that there were gods in the ancient world of different cultures that didn't require human sacrifice. You worship them different ways. Not every single god in every single temple required the exact same types of worship.
Yeah,
there were still idols. You're still most of the time eating and drinking blood in some regard. Most of the time there was horrific sexual activity involved, but not every single one of them required a human sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's still just weird, like for them to not notice the stark difference between worshiping Yahweh and these other gods and then ask, what have we done wrong?
Well, or what could even be worse is to notice and not care. You have to at least know, well, we don't do that here. If we're going to come and do our fake feigning of worshiping Yahweh, it's not like they were bringing humans to, offer to him. So they knew, what the boundaries were in terms of like, here's what you can offer to Yahweh, to this God. But to not care is the even scarier part. It's like, what if they actually did notice and don't care? Like, to me, that's the seared conscience aspect of it. That's the aspect of, just being fully given over to Satan.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. And the patience of Yahweh to even have to like repeat himself how many times now?
Over and over. I mean, and we read this book in a matter, obviously it takes us weeks to read it, but the book itself, you could probably read it in a matter of a few hours. But this is years of Yahweh giving these, messages over and over and over, these pleas for repentance, these warnings, all this mercy he's pouring out to give them all these warnings and give them all this time, to act right. Or to surrender, to go into the captivity like they're supposed to. So yeah, it's just even crazier to, have that reality in there as well. That yeah, this is years and years and years that he's begging and pleading with them.
I think in previous chapters, he said through the prophet Jeremiah, the people say the Lord does not see. And that mentality could play into this as well.
Yeah.
If they have been told this lie from the enemy that Yahweh doesn't see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just go in the groves and a bunch of trees overshadow you and you're in private and he can't see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Or go into a cave down below the earth and he can't see what you're doing. Like, that's pretty crazy. And then of course, just like always, he always usually follows it up with some sort of explanation or encouragement. It's like an admonishment sandwich, right?
Yeah.
The buns are, the admonishments, the chastising, and the meat is usually like a kingdom promise or some sort of sensitive statement of love and affirmation to them that he does care for them. So here we go. In my understanding, this is talking about the great resurrection.
Yeah.
Bringing everyone back from all the lands to which they've been scattered.
Yeah.
Because people are not saying this statement today. They didn't say this statement in the days of the Maccabees, in the days of Ezra and Nehemiah, when people were partially regathered. And they definitely aren't saying this statement in 1948.
Well, there are people who do, but it's not all the nations. Most of the nations don't seem to agree with some aspect of that state. So yeah, it's not being fulfilled to the letter here for sure. And it's funny because here in verse 17, there he is saying, my eyes are on all their ways. They are not hidden from my face.
Right.
So yeah, there's that self-deception of he doesn't see. He doesn't know.
And he's like, I'm going to repay them double, by the way, for their iniquity and sin. The nations will come to you from the ends of the earth and will say, our fathers inherited lies. A lot of people believe, and I believe personally, that this is a kingdom promise of the nations coming in, the day of the Lord. Christ sets up his throne, Matthew 25, Revelation 21. And after he sets up his throne, all nations are drawn to him for judgment, and the people they're going to have lots of things to say when they're being held accountable for their behaviors.
Yeah.
And even though this can be a true thing, he's going to judge sheep and goats out of this stuff, right? So there is no place in Matthew 25 where it actually explains how he's going to judge people, that he says to them, because you've worshipped idols. I don't know. He's going to take mercy on a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's the thing I'm trying to get at here. It doesn't say in his chastisement of the goats that he then kills and doesn't allow to repopulate the millennial reign. He says because they didn't do these behaviors. Now they are Torah behaviors, but none of those behaviors listed that they did, that they were bad. They were all relational to other people. Yeah. He says, as you did them to these men, you did them least to me, or to the least of these, you did them to me. He doesn't go to them and say they worshipped idols. Now, in our modern day, this becomes very unique because not all nations worship idols anymore in the same regard as in the days of Jeremiah.
Yeah.
yes, you can go Colossians 3 and you can talk about,
Idols of the
different
heart.
sins and idols of
Yeah.
the heart. We get that. But these people are talking about physical idols.
Mhm.
They're not talking about, oh, our heart posture was idolatrous because we didn't understand who you were and your goodness. No. Yes, there's still nations across the earth that have actual idols, but it's not the majority.
Yeah.
And in Revelation, in the book of Revelation, it says in chapter 16, with one of the great plagues that was put out on people, that they did not repent of their idolatry. And in Revelation 13, the second beast creates an image which is an idol to the first beast and forces people to worship it. So it looks as if the actual old school idolatry is going to make a return, to where the second beast creates an actual image of the first beast and forces people to worship that image of the first beast. And that's old school idolatry.
That makes a lot of sense, actually, with how much we've talked about kind of the things that seem like are going to be in place at the time Apollyon returns, because you would need people to be primed to worship an idol physically like that. So you would need to be, we see it happening with their revelation of the hierarchy, as what's her name, Bailey called it, and gradually bringing these things back into the forefront of society and making them okay, removing the taboo from them, making them okay to talk about and dabble in, and they're having to do that because it's been suppressed for 2,000 years, basically.
Right.
So, because even in parts of the world where Christianity was no longer dominant, the ripple effects of that are still felt. And Islam, broken clock right twice a day kind of moment here. Islam, did kind of go and destroy a lot of pagan idols and statues as well. So that religion had an effect on the world in terms of in terms of people not being familiar with the actual ancient practice of idolatry and what it actually looked like.
Also, just historically, 4th through 7th century Christians destroyed a lot of idols.
Yes, yeah. I'm just saying,
the lands of Rome and destroyed
widespread throughout the world. It would need to make a comeback to have people primed and ready to worship a physical idol in that way. So it makes sense. It makes sense why they would have to externalize the hierarchy and bring people into this slowly, bring people into this demonic mindset where these things are okay.
That's why whenever people just get so, every 10 years on average, the U.S. goes into a military conflict, and people inside the United States who are statistically, by majority, the highest number of Christians who are actively reading their Bible by population set, because there's so many Christians in our country. So put those two factors together, and therefore every few years you get Christians so amped up again because they think another international conflict of any kind must be leading to Revelation 13. But I just lovingly try to remind people that Apollyon has to be revealed for Revelation 13 to be fulfilled. And that's a big deal. You won't miss that. It won't be subtle. It's not the next president or leader of Turkey, whatever his name is. It's not the next leader of the African nations. No, guys, it's not what's his name? Xing Zhao, the leader of China. It's not him either, guys. It is Apollyon. Comes out of the pit, out of the earth. You will not miss him. He attacks all nations when he comes out, and he only has 42 months to do so. So again, that's why I've said at the beginning, every 10 years, the unofficial military doctrine for the United States is get into a new conflict so you can test out your new weapons and enhance your new military training in real situations. I'm not saying I'm in for that. I don't like war. I'm just saying that is the pattern that people have observed, which I would say, well, anyway, the point is that's the pattern people have observed. So with that being said, Christians in America get all crazied up every time. They get in a frenzy every time. Oh my gosh, it's World War III. It's going to be the coming of the Antichrist. He's already here. You just start seeing videos after posts after videos after posts. People just going absolutely insane, thinking that Revelation is happening now. Like it must be happening now. Chapter 9 is happening right now. I just want to encourage folks, just like we lovingly say and megaphone as politely and loudly as we can on all of our videos for 8 years now, Apollyon is a person who's a name. This is not just a generic moniker for evil. Like, it's a name of a person. He has a history in the Bible and in the nations. They knew who John was talking about when John gave the letter of Revelation after he received it from the angel. And he wrote everything down and he spread it through the churches. They knew who Apollyon was. This wasn't guesswork. This wasn't sent them to say, oh, is this Nero? No, it's not Nero. They knew Apollyon and Nero diametrically opposed. Apollyon is not Nero. Anyway, I just want to encourage folks, guys, if we're instructed to be peacemakers and to pray for peace. And so this is why I think it's so important that we do have Yahweh in passages like Jeremiah filtering in kingdom promises, because we have to be reminded constantly of what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Not what a coalition of Israel and the United States might be trying to do, not what the European Union might be trying to do, not what a coalition of Iran, Russia, and China might be trying to do. We have to remember what Yahweh emphatically and repeatedly says in his word, what he is going to do. He, through his angels and his son, is going to do, coming down through the heavens, through the sky, is going to establish peace on the earth and is going to set the proper boundaries that need to be set. So I just hope to encourage folks. That's why Yahweh is constantly in his prophecies, reminding them of the end of the story where he brings peace on the earth.
Yeah, one thing to consider is there kind of would be no reason for them to.
Sorry.
It's okay. Okay. Can they hear me? Okay, I'm not muted.
I can't turn both of my mics
Okay.
on.
They kind of wouldn't need to be desensitizing the masses to all of this demonic stuff. You know, in all reality, if they wanted to just, am I in your way? He's taking the first nose blowing break. I thought it would be me. Oh, what was I saying? Yeah. Ultimately, it seems like I think that a lot of us think that, you know, if they had the power to just take us over and create this global enslavement of everybody all at once, you know, I think a lot of us feel like there's always this other shoe that's about to drop when all of that's going to happen. But it seems like there's a lot of stuff that needs to be falling into place for them to be able to do all of that. And to me, there's a much longer game being played in desensitizing us and externalizing the hierarchy by bringing out this new age demonic religion and getting people comfortable with these ideas. You know, there's a reason for that. And I would agree with Sean that it's because they need a population of people who are not going to, you know, who are going to be comfortable with the concept of bowing in worship to something physical, because that's, you know, that's been out of style for a very long time in most places of the world.
I didn't hear anything you said. So.
That's okay. You don't need to respond to my
anything
commentary.
else in 16?
No.
All right. I may need you to read one of these today.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Okay, chapter 17. The sin of Judah is written with an iron stylus engraved with a diamond point on the tablets of their hearts, on the horns of their altars. Even their children remember their altars and Asherah poles. By the green trees and on the high hills, O my mountain and the countryside, I will give over your wealth and all your treasures as plunder, because of the sin of your high places within all your borders, and you yourself will relinquish the inheritance that I gave you. I will enslave you to your enemies in a land that you don't know, for you have kindled my anger, it will burn forever. This is what Yahweh says. Cursed is the man who trusts in mankind, who makes mere flesh his strength, and turns his heart from Yahweh. He will be like a shrub in the desert. He will not, excuse me. He'll be like a shrub in the desert. He will not see when prosperity comes. He will dwell in the parched places of the desert and the salt land where no one lives. But blessed is the man who trusts in Yahweh, whose confidence is in him. He's like a tree planted by the waters that sends out its roots toward the stream. It doesn't fear when the heat comes, and its leaves are always green. It doesn't worry in a year of drought, or does it cease to produce fruit. The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? I, Yahweh, search the heart. I examine the mind to reward a man according to his ways, according to what his deeds deserve. Like a partridge like a partridge hatching eggs it did not lay, is the man who makes a fortune unjustly. In the middle of his days, his riches will desert him. In the end, he will be the fool. A glorious throne, exalted from the beginning, is the place of our sanctuary. O Yahweh, the hope of Israel, all who abandon you will be put to shame. All who turn away will be written in the dust, for they have abandoned Yahweh, the fountain of living water. Heal me, O Yahweh, and I will be healed. Save me, and I will be saved, for you are my praise. Behold, they keep saying to me, where is the word of Yahweh? Let it come now. But I have not run away from being your shepherd. I have not desired the day of despair. You know that the utterance of my lips was spoken in your presence. Do not become a terror to me. You are my refuge in the day of disaster. Let my persecutors be put to shame, but do not let me be put to shame. Let them be terrified, but do not let me be terrified. Bring upon them the day of disaster and shatter them with a double destruction. This is what Yahweh said to me. Go and stand at the gate of the people, through which the kings of Judah go out, in and out, and stand at all the other gates of Jerusalem. Say to them, hear the word of Yahweh, O kings of Judah, all people of Judah and Jerusalem who enter through these gates. This is what Yahweh says. Take heed for yourselves. Do not carry a load or bring in through the gates of Jerusalem on the Sabbath day, but you must keep the Sabbath day holy, just as I commanded your forefathers. Yet they wouldn't listen or incline their ear. They stiffened their necks and wouldn't listen to receive my discipline. If, however, you listen carefully to me, says Yahweh, and bring no load through the gates of this city on the Sabbath day, keep the Sabbath day holy and do not work on it, then kings and princes will enter through the gates of this city. They will sit on the throne of David, riding in chariots and on horses, with their officials, along with the men of Judah, and the residents of Jerusalem and this city will be inhabited forever. And people will come from the cities of Judah and the places around Jerusalem, from the land of Benjamin, and from the foothills, the hill country, and the Negev, bringing burnt offerings and sacrifices, grain offerings and frankincense, and thank offerings to the house of Yahweh. But if you don't listen to me to keep the Sabbath day holy by not carrying a load while entering the gates of Jerusalem on the Sabbath day, then I will kindle an unquenchable fire in its gates to consume the citadels of Jerusalem.
Okay, I have to blow my nose.
Yeah. It's right here.
I've got some.
Okay. Okay. So let's see here. Again, he's just reprimanding them again. He's telling them exactly, they should know why they're guilty. He keeps pointing it out to them over and over and again. They're clearly not reading his word, which tells them they can't do this stuff. So he's sending a prophet to reiterate his word, to remind them they can't do this stuff. And then they act coy like they don't know that they're doing that. So it's really kind of a really flippant attitude to have with a God whom has already shown himself to be the Most High God. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. So this is interesting because it talks about being cursed because you turn your heart from Yahweh, but it gives a qualifier that is a little different than Deuteronomy 28 and 29. Excuse me, Deuteronomy 27, 28. Is that it's just cursed is the man who trusts in mankind.
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh, you're cursed because you worshipped idols, or you trusted in false gods, or you trusted in the hosts of heaven. This one, he says, oh, you trusted in mankind. You turned your heart from me.
Yeah.
And you thought the strength of flesh. Remember, like we were reading Ezekiel when the people were trusting in Pharaoh Necho.
Yeah.
And Yahweh's chastising them. Like, what can he do to save you? He can't save you. You need to trust in me. I'm the one that can save you.
Honestly, the more I lean into that, the more peace I feel as we go through these tumultuous times of wars and rumors of wars, because I just come closer and closer into the understanding of ultimately we're waiting for his kingdom anyways. And none of these kingdoms of men are my salvation. None of them are what I should have my hope in terms of anyone restoring some golden age of America or saving the world from name the ism. I mean, there are certainly things that I may have an opinion on as a citizen, as a human being who is aware of her surroundings and what's going on in the world, to the extent that I can have an opinion about it. But I'm becoming more and more convicted to keep those opinions to myself as often as I can, because I don't know what the Lord is up to. And I do know he didn't stop being involved in the rise and fall of nations just all of a sudden randomly after Christ ascended. I made a post about this on my Facebook a couple days ago and gave a big list of a big list of verses for people to meditate on, because I can't unsee that, God says over and over in his word that he's sovereign over these things, and he's involved. And I'm not saying that he necessarily anoints and ordains, people whose fruit is pretty wicked, right? But he's involved in, these mass movements on the big chess board of, the nations of the earth. And I'm going to trust in that, and so whatever is happening, whatever my government is doing, whatever these governments over here are doing, all that, I can have an opinion about all of that. But what does my opinion really accomplish at the end of the day? And especially for anyone else, if I'm ministering to people and trying to feed sheep, like how am I feeding and edifying anybody, if I'm solely focused on, oh my gosh, there's another war, we got to stop our government, everybody's so evil, it's this guy needs to win the next election, this guy needs to be out of power over here, all those kind of things. Like, it's just becoming white noise in my brain, because it's like, ultimately I'm waiting for the real kingdom to come. So I just want to try and share Jesus and his word with as many people as I can before that happens, right? So yeah, I think I actually had an experience a couple weeks ago that I told you about when it happened, that this verse just stands out so much for me because it broke my heart. I was having a conversation with my Nana, and this is not my Nana on my dad's side, who was the devout Christian. She passed away. She's sleeping in Sheol, waiting the resurrection. My other Nana on my maternal side, she was raised in a Catholic home, but doesn't have any kind of semblance of a practice of that as a faith. She's planning a Catholic mass for her funeral, and she's one of those people that thinks, well, if I got those last rites, I'll be good. But I've said to Sean and to friends for a while that her real religion, I've realized, is politics. It's the Democratic Party. It's these ideologies that are pumped into her brain from this political realm. And her and I were talking a few weeks ago, and she, I was trying to explain to her this concept of, I'm not really it was bothering her that I had such peace about the things that certain world leaders are up to. And I was trying to explain to her that, it's ultimately, Nana, my faith isn't in these people. It's not in this government, my faith is in, the Father and his kingdom. And she actually said to me, well, if you can't have any faith in the government, then you might as well unalive yourself. And I was like, oh, there it is. She's saying the quiet part out loud. She's confirming, my assessment for quite a few years now that,
85,
86. Pray for me, guys, to have the words that she needs to hear. She is definitely one of those people that the moment you try to bring up anything about God and the Bible, it gets real tense, real quick, because she doesn't want to hear any of that. She does not like hearing things that are written on the Bible. And I would love to have a door open up to where I could explain to her some of the things that she's got wrong about the Bible, some of the things that make her, in her mind, hate the Bible. It's actually a bad, wrong interpretation anyways. So it's like, I would love to be able to offer her that correct understanding, but it's really hard to get in the door with someone who's so sold out to a completely different, godless, really, ideology. And in her mind, her faith is in government and getting the right person in office and things like that. And it was really heartbreaking to hear her actually say it out loud, that, wow, if I can't have any faith, because that's what we were talking about, the files. And she was realizing these things about the files and world leaders. And I was telling her, I was like, Nana, I've been telling you this for 15 years. These people are, these people in the files. And so she's having this, it's like an identity crisis of realizing these people that are kind of like her gods. So don't tell me I'll never get through. Let's have some faith in the Lord. I've already been able to, share a lot of the light of Christ with her that I couldn't have before. So it's just a matter of having a direct conversation that I haven't been able to, figure out the right place and time. So anyways, that's a whole tangent, but that's what that verse makes me think of: trusting in mankind, trusting in these kingdoms and the next nation that's going to rise up. So anyways, I'll get off my my little story time.
It is a good reminder, though, because the politics will never be fixed until Christ returns. That is the end of the Bible. Even, what is the famous prophecy? They'll be saying peace, peace, but yet disaster comes upon you.
Yeah.
Like that's even when they think.
Go ahead. I told you.
Even when mankind thinks that they got it figured out, they think they're in peace. They think they're in prosperity. Here comes Yahweh with judgment.
Yeah.
And so it's just the Bible tells us implicitly we're going to be in turmoil, wars, rumors of wars, nation against nation, as Christ prophesied, until there's a great tribulation, and then he comes with the powers of heaven, shaking the heavens and the earth with the angels of God. So those are some pretty big qualifiers to know when there's finally going to be political rest, if you could put it like that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be choosing one of the two evils.
Mm-hmm.
Bible says at the end of the day that the whole world wanders after the beast.
Yeah.
There's not some righteous nation that stands apart and says, "Oh, by the way, we're a set apart nation that's not going to be affected by the beast. Isn't going to attack us."
Yeah.
No, he goes after all nations, tribes, peoples, languages, and tongues because he's attacking all people. And so this is and that doesn't mean that all those people, he persecutes both the nations and the children of God.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something to keep in mind here, right? If you're children of God spread about amongst the nations who are being ruled by men in power in this elite little club whom are doing wicked things, well, that's you may suffer persecution for your faith, but the nations themselves are going to be judged by Yahweh, just like we're going to read in Jeremiah as we get closer towards chapters 45 through 50, some 53. Speaks about Nebuchadnezzar as the hammer of Yahweh.
Yeah.
Now, Nebuchadnezzar was not a righteous person when this is being spoken.
Right.
He was a wicked king,
Yeah.
the king of Babylon, in full wickedness when this was being spoken. But Yahweh is still speaking of him as his instrument, which he's going to exact judgment on the nations throughout the prophecies all around Israel and Israel itself. So that means, correlating it to end times prophecies, a comparison, that means in the days of Nebuchadnezzar, when he invades Israel, as he's doing in the days of Jeremiah, what we're reading right now, Jeremiah is a righteous prophet. He's a child of God. He's a righteous man. He practices righteousness. He's called righteous by Yahweh. That he's still going to suffer persecution. He's still going to go into exile. And then the unrighteous people around him will also suffer persecution and exile as well. So this is where, this is why Revelation 14 says this requires patience on behalf of the saints. You must endure to the end.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to look fair. It's not going to look like it's politically just. It's going to be chaos.
A lot of it is not going to be politically just.
No, it's not.
That's why there's going to be such rage and anger about things. But that's the thing. I mean, everything that the world calls good is not good, and everything that they call evil is actually good. So whatever peace that they're going to be having at that time, it's obviously not going to be peace. It's going to be the opposite of peace, because that's like our shtick. We create
You mean mankind?
as humans. Yeah,
Okay.
mankind. That's mankind's shtick. Is just this backwards thinking. But this is ultimately why our hope does have to be in the Lord.
Man is
Because
blessed. His confidence is in him.
yeah,
Just like Psalm chapter 1, Jeremiah is repeating, he's like a tree planted by the waters, sends out its roots toward the stream. He doesn't fear when the heat comes. He doesn't fear when the drought comes, because he knows there's a greater promise, right? There's been righteous people that have starved to death throughout history. There's
Mhm.
been righteous people that have been run through with the sword or
Mhm.
shot in the back of the head by a firing squad. If you have the hope of the kingdom inside you, of the promises of Yahweh to say he will come at a specific time and establish peace on the earth, you will be led into places where the streams are undisturbed. a beautiful field, a table set before you. Like Psalm 23, basically. Like you can be led into that at the kingdom come. But in this life, we're told we must endure to the end, because there will be wars, rumors of wars, nations against nations. There will be upheaval, and we have to trust in Yahweh. We can't let our hearts grow cold and stop loving God or loving others because of the chaos, the nastiness, the inherited lies that the people deal with all the time, that we deal with all the time. A cynical heart is one that is abandoning trust in God.
Yeah, how wonderful would it be if, when a war pops off in an area that automatically, invokes World War III memes from the internet. How wonderful would it be if Christians had a response of peace and calm with all of that, instead of there's a constant panic machine that goes on. And I see all the time in all kinds of Christian denominations where something happens in the Middle East and people start panicking. They're not, even in that delusion of thinking, oh, everything that happens in the Middle East is, the sign that the Lord's returning. Even in that wrong mindset, I don't see people like, yay, the Lord's coming back soon. Yay, let's tell as many people about Jesus as we can. Like, it's people panic. They want to prepare. They're talking about how to avoid the mark of the beast. There's all kinds of paranoia and worry when it's actually supposed to be the opposite. We're supposed to be more and more firm, like these trees that don't get swept away in the current of the river. They have these nice firm roots that keep them from swaying and all of that. And the more the Lord cultivates that within me, the more blatant it is to me outside myself to look at the community, all Christian communities, and see not as much of that peace and calm and patience happening among people when things happen like wars. When another war is started, you don't see people, joyous about. There's either some kind of political outrage or some kind of, get your bug out bag ready. We got to try and survive this.
Well, the Bible does teach us practical survival preparation.
Yeah,
but at
I'm
the
not
same
saying
time,
that's-
like I get what you're saying. There's
Yeah.
an unnecessary, undue, like there are no tanks at the borders of California or Virginia right now. But for some people who, other Christians around the world, there may be any small majority of Christians in Pakistan or Afghanistan. Pakistan just invaded them. So like there's places, any potential Christians that may be under constant persecution and barrage in the West Bank right now, right? They may be, they're losing their churches, that kind of stuff. Like clearly there's persecution happening across the world, but I do agree with you. It should be our job to be praying for peace, to be praying for people to go to the word and being stable, as opposed to flaming the fire in the flame. I can't say the right phrase. Flaming the fire.
Yeah.
Fanning the flame of the fire.
Yeah.
With unnecessary worry and, oh my gosh, this guy's going to be the next Hitler. This guy's going to be the next Antichrist. Oh my gosh, this guy is the Antichrist.
Yeah.
We just didn't know until now.
Yeah.
Like all this nonsense.
Just endless speculation about these things. And
there were some preachers in the 80s and 90s who made millions of dollars selling books on that stuff. Every time anything happened. I remember the books. I remember there was a little grocery store called IGA that was in our little town that we lived in. And they had these little, little turnstile bins with novels and right next to the tabloids. Right. And so I'm looking at those as a 8-9-year-old child in 88, 89.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's checking the groceries out and I'm reading all the headlines. And I quickly understood the tabloids were fake. But then I'm reading all the books and the headlines by these supposed pastors. We're talking about, oh, here, Armageddon's here. It was just like every year a new book. I got to the point where it used to scare me because there was rapture books, there's Armageddon books.
Yeah.
And I think I've told you this before, that plus some of the preaching that the pastor did that took over the church that because my dad stopped pastoring at one point and went to do full-time missions with the orphanages. And the pastor that took over constantly preached on the rapture. Like, it's coming this year.
Yeah.
Rapture's coming this year. And I was so afraid as a 9 and 10-year-old child of the rapture that I would start randomly calling pastors from the phone book just to see if they were still answering the phone. I'm not kidding you. Like, if my mom went to the store and didn't come back when she said she was, like she was 10 or 15 minutes late, I'm getting out the phone book and I'm looking up the First Baptist pastor's phone number. Because,
Gee.
we had a phone book back then.
Yeah.
I remember one time I called like 4 churches. I was sweating. I was freaking out. I called like 4 churches, and finally the pastor answered. And I'm hanging up on him immediately. I'm not talking
Just
to him.
making sure someone's there to answer.
Because I thought, well, if this guy answers, then the rapture hadn't happened yet. You know what I mean? So, like, the moment he answers, I just hang up on him. And I'm sure they had caller ID back then, so they knew that it was my dad's phone number. It was calling and hanging up on him. So.
I mean, it's funny now, but it's really it's sad to think about that is what there's whole industries devoted to this fear machine of what's supposed to be the greatest, even in the false rapture idea, what's supposed to be the greatest moment in, mankind's history, our literal redemption from death, from sin and death. And there's a whole industry that's been built up around being afraid of that moment in time. I mean, the enemy is crafty, man.
Yeah.
He's crafty.
There's a few more things in this chapter I want to point out before we move on, though.
Okay.
A lot of people get upset about this because they claim it's not what it's supposed to be. So, like, if we look for, if we go in the Septuagint, verse 9, instead of saying this, supposedly it says the heart's deep beyond all things, and it is the man, and who can know him.
That kind of makes sense with the rest of the verse, actually.
Given a different feel to verse 9.
Yeah.
But whether it's just the heart that is deep and who can know it, or the heart is deceitful and who can know it, either way, I think verse 10 is poignant that Yahweh searches the heart and mind to reward a man according to the way he deserves. So this is why, like, once saved, always saved is doctrine of demons.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to, like, you can't just live your life however you want and not expect something to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting, something to consider. This was interesting to me because he says, they keep saying, where's the word of the Lord? Let it come now. And here's Jeremiah speaking the word of the Lord.
Yeah.
In fact, like right here, the Lord said to me, the word of the Lord said to me, you know what I'm saying? And then he says to the people, hear the word of the Lord.
Yeah.
Right. But these people who say, well, what have we done wrong? They're also saying, well, where is the word of the Lord? Let it come now. Like, these people got to be trolling. They got to be trolling.
I mean, honestly, it makes me think about even, what we learned about Josiah, that even Josiah was clearly hearing the word of the Lord and dismissing it.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, but he's commended for not worshiping idols.
I'm not saying that. I'm talking about literally the word of the Lord coming from Jeremiah specifically. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so
is in Jeremiah's lifetime, he's also experiencing this, even with the most righteous king, after David, basically.
Okay, so what she's talking about, guys, is that
you're
throwing a deep cut in without any segue.
I thought we talked about this last.
It's been a while.
No, we talked about this last week.
Still a deep. We didn't go live last week, sweetie. It's been
whatever. The last week we were on.
So the point is, Josiah died. He went to attack Pharaoh Necho, and Jeremiah told him not to. Now, if you only read the account from what is it?
Second Chronicles 35.
It doesn't explain that Jeremiah told him not to. It's in First Ezra's chapter 4 or chapter 1.
I don't remember.
It's in the book of First Ezra's where Jeremiah explicitly tells Josiah, stay out of Pharaoh Necho's business. Pharaoh Necho is doing what apparently Jeremiah communicated to Pharaoh Necho through the word of the Lord for Necho to do. And even in Second Chronicles 35, Necho says, I'm here. God is with me. Like, I'm doing this because God told me to do it. And I need to hurry and do it.
This is from the mouth of the Lord.
And here comes the king of Judah, Josiah, who's trying to get in the way.
So I was just trying to say that it's, poor Jeremiah, like, throughout his life, he's dealing with people who are like in this form of denial that, even though he's an acknowledged prophet, like they acknowledge him as a prophet with authority, and yet they still say, where's the word of the Lord? And even, one of the most righteous kings ever, still looked at Jeremiah and said, oh, that's from the Lord. I don't know. I'm still going to go against it. So I just feel for the guy, Yeah.
It's a gaslighting for sure. Also, we go into Trinitarian doctrine with their second century Christology stuff, thinking that Jesus is the word of the Lord everywhere.
Yeah.
They think he's like literally the word of the Lord. And you say, where's Jesus in the Old Testament? They say, well, he's the word of the Lord.
Mm-hmm. He's everywhere.
So I'm saying, wait a minute. Jeremiah speaking to Jesus? I thought angels showed up to these guys. No, it's Jesus is the word of the Lord. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So why didn't anyone in the New Testament ever say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, all the times in the law and the prophets where it says the word Lord came to the prophet, it was Jesus. Why didn't any of them just make it that simple and just say that?
Jesus himself never even said
No,
it.
he didn't. He said he was
And
sent.
he said who he was.
Yeah, he was sent specifically in his day for a reason. He wouldn't there. It was, the point is, it's just, this is what you call eisegesis. It's just inferring retroactively into the text, just because it talks about Jesus being the word of the Lord that became flesh. Right here, it'll say, well, see, he's the word of the Lord. So they're taking a phrase out of its contextual use and thinking, oh, it's personified as a person every single place you use that phrase.
Yeah.
And that is just bad. It's bad reading comprehension, for one. It's assuming your theology into the text, for two. And linguistically, through Hebrew scholars, none of them think that. None of them think that, oh, every time the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah or to a priest, that it was literally a pre-incarnate Jesus Christ showing up. Like they don't think that at all.
Excuse me.
Anyway, bless you, sweetie. Sorry, guys, for the hacking and sneezing and coughing episode, but we've been going through it for the last week. Trying to get better. Some kind of weird cold. So anyway, I just think there's something to point out. Just an example for all of you guys that deal with this with friends and family on a regular basis, where you start to see them retroactively they start making up entire new narratives about the Old Testament. We deal with it obviously because of some of the debates I've done and pastors I interact with, and I hear them use this type of argument, and they're teaching this stuff to their congregants. That, oh yeah, here's Jesus talking. You're like, wait a minute, what? I thought, and this is a very powerful thing for you to remember, guys. I thought Hebrews 1 and 2 explicitly tells us that in these last days he spoke to us through his son, whom he appointed heir of all things. Previously, he spoke to us through the prophets in different ways. And they'll say, well, it just meant the prophets, but see, it was Jesus speaking to the prophets. I'm like, no, because it clearly tells you in all these passages that the word of the Lord came through an angel, and they want to say that this angel is Jesus Christ. But the angel itself is actually speaking to the people. He's not speaking just always through a prophet. Sometimes he himself is speaking. So then you're in direct violation of Hebrews 1 and 2. Okay, just to try to give you some just some extra bullets for your extra arrows for your quiver, so to speak.
Sorry.
You gonna make it?
Yeah,
I don't know if we're gonna make it this episode, guys.
Do you think you can read one more chapter?
Yeah, we'll give it a try here.
All right.
Also, FYI, this whole thing about the Sabbath day, it's extra validation for the Book of Jubilees. When it tells you in chapter 2 and in chapter 50, one of the specific requirements for Sabbath day is not to carry a load in and out of your house. That is not in Exodus through Deuteronomy. It's only in the Book of Jubilees, because Jubilees is scripture, guys. And so we have Jeremiah repeating a command only in the Book of Jubilees, not in the book of Exodus through Deuteronomy, explicitly detailing a command that Yahweh, through the prophet Jeremiah, is explaining as a part of the Sabbath that you would have known had we, like the Ethiopians, always had Jubilees in our Bibles. So it's just another proof text for Jubilees here.
And that's, is that a kingdom prophecy there?
Which part?
The very end, 24 through the end.
I think this was I'm not convinced that this is a kingdom prophecy. Because he's talking about if they're obedient versus disobedient. And he's saying, look, if you'd obey me, I'd have an inhabitant sit on your throne forever. Now we do get that fulfilled in Christ through the kingdom. Yes, of course. But I think in the immediate context of what he's trying to express to them and what they were doing, I don't know if this is a kingdom prophecy or not. I think he's just trying to explain to them. Could it be prophecy for the first time they are regathered back there? I don't think this is a prophecy specifically. I think it's a if or. It's a if you obey me, these things will happen. If you don't, these things won't happen.
They do return to the land and start
do,
doing burnt offerings in the temple again, don't they?
They do, sweetie. They do.
Okay.
I'm just saying, yeah, I would have to do more study on it. I don't personally, it doesn't sound like a kingdom prophecy to me, but
I'm not saying
I
it
could be
is.
wrong. I could be wrong.
I'm saying maybe it's not. Maybe it's when they did return and bring back their burnt offerings.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on to 18 here. This is the famous Calvinist passage. I like to use Romans 9 in conjunction with Jeremiah 18 to try to say that some people were created for destruction and never for salvation, because Calvinism is a doctrine of demons. This is the word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord. Is this Jesus again showing up? The word of the Lord came again to Jeremiah. Go down at once to the potter's house, and there I'll give you my message. So I went down to the potter's house and saw him working at the wheel. But the vessel that he was shaping from the clay became flawed in his hands, so he formed it with another vessel, as it seemed best for him to do. Then the word of the Lord came to me, saying, O house of Israel, declares Yahweh, can I not treat you as this potter treats his clay? Just like clay in the potter's hands, so are you in my hand, O house of Israel. Before we keep reading, sweetie, I think it's important to point out what we just saw. Because what we're about to read, and this is a passage that's highly taken out of context to try to affirm something called determinationism, which is that Yahweh created people to never be saved.
Okay.
Which is a horrific doctrine of demons.
Yeah.
Okay. What did we just watch? We just watched the potter trying to shape something, but he messed up. It became flawed in his hand. He messed up. So he formed it into another vessel. He's still using the vessel. He didn't discard it.
He's still using the clay.
He's still using what he formed. The vessel. He's the clay, the vessel.
Yeah.
He's still going to use it. He just is reshaping it according to new circumstances.
Yeah.
That's it. This vessel was not made just so he could throw it in the fire and destroy it. No, he's going to use it for something else. All right. Just so we're understanding the context of where the following words come from. Yeah. Okay, guys? So I went down to the potter's house and saw him working the wheel, but the vessel that he was shaping from the clay became flawed in his hands, so he formed it into another vessel, as it seemed best for him to do. The word Lord came to me, saying, O house of Israel, declares the Lord, can I not treat you as this potter treats his clay? Just like clay in the potter's hands, so you are in mine, O house of Israel. At any time I might announce that a nation or kingdom will be uprooted, torn down, and destroyed. But if that nation I warned turns from its evil, then I will relent of the disaster I planned to bring it. And if at another time I announce that I will build up and establish a nation or kingdom, and if it does evil in my sight and does not listen to my voice, then I will relent of the good I had intended for it. This is exactly what we were talking about earlier, guys.
Yeah.
This is Daniel 2. Yahweh uproots, he plants, he destroys nations, he does what he wants, but that doesn't mean he's forcing them to do what he wants. They can turn and start doing evil.
Yep.
This is something to remember, right? He can orchestrate because he's trying to work good on the earth. He can orchestrate the setting for good things to happen if men maintain virtue to lead a nation. But if they abandon Yahweh, abandon virtue, abandon truth, abandon morality, and they worship demons, well, then, of course, they're going to be doing evil, and they're going to destroy the good plans that God had for that nation and become evil despots or kings or whatever.
I'm watching it happen in real time.
So, and in the same way, he can decide, I'm going to destroy this nation. But if they turn from their evil, he will relent of the disaster plan. We see this with Jonah, right? That's the story of Jonah going to Assyria, going to Nineveh. He wanted to destroy Nineveh. They repented. He relented for 100 years. So something to keep in mind, okay? So now, therefore, tell the men of Judah and the residents of Jerusalem that this is what Yahweh says. Behold, I'm planning a disaster for you and devising a plan against you. Turn now, each of you, from your evil ways and correct your ways and deeds. But they will reply, it's hopeless. We will follow our own plans, and each of us will act according to the stubbornness of his evil heart. Therefore, this is what Yahweh says. Inquire among the nations, who has ever heard things like these? Virgin Israel has done a most terrible thing. Does the snow of Lebanon ever leave its rocky slopes? Or does its cool water flowing from a distance ever run dry? Yet my people have forgotten me. They burn incense to worthless idols. They make them stumble in their ways, leaving the ancient roads to walk on rutted bypaths instead of on the highway. They've made their land a desolation, a perpetual object of scorn. All who pass by will be appalled and shake their heads. I will scatter them before the enemy like the east wind. I will show them my back and not my face in the day of their calamity. Then some said, come, let us make plans against Jeremiah, for the law will never be lost to the priest, nor counsel to the wise, nor an oracle to the prophet. Come, let us denounce him and pay no heed to any of his words. Attend to me, O Yahweh. Hear what my accusers are saying. Should good be repaid with evil, yet they have dug a pit for me. Remember how I stood before you to speak good on their behalf, to turn your wrath from them? Therefore hand their children over to famine, pour out the power of the sword upon them. Let their wives become childless and widowed. Let their husbands be slain by disease. Let their young men struck down by the sword in battle. Let a cry be heard from their houses when you suddenly bring raiders against them. For they've dug a pit to capture me and have hidden snares for my feet. But you, O Lord, know all their deadly plots against me. Do not wipe away their guilt or blot out their sin from your sight. Let them be overthrown before you. Deal with them in your time of anger. The priest Jeremiah has stopped interceding for the people.
Yeah.
And that's what comes out of his mouth.
Yeah.
You do not want Christ doing that for you.
Yeah.
You want Christ to continue to intercede for you. You do not want him to say, it's time to judge me, Father. So this is what a priest, this is a priest having a discussion with the Father, right? You want to say, oh, what's a priest doing when he intercedes for you? He's not saying this.
Yeah.
This is the opposite, right? He's stopped interceding for the people because Yahweh said, what he told, was it chapter 3 or 4? Don't pray for them.
Yeah.
Don't even try to pray for them. I'm going to destroy these people. And here he is, finally getting on board with the Father's plan. He's like, you're right. You're right. They keep acting coy. They act like they ain't done anything wrong.
Yeah.
I try to give them a word from the Lord, and they say, nope, we will do what we want. So also in chapter 7, they said, no, we're just going to bake cakes to the Queen of Heaven. We're not going to follow Yahweh. So this is just sad. This is sad. And he even tells them, look, if I plan to do evil to you and destroy you and uproot you as a kingdom, but you repent, then I'll relent and I won't do it. And then he says, now each of you turn from your evil ways and correct your ways and deeds. And they say, no, nah. That's crazy. Like he told them, he gave them the answer to the test.
Yeah.
The answer to the test is, hey, if you repent, I'm not going to bring this disaster upon you. Would you like to repent now? And they're like, nope, we're not going to do it.
Yeah, the test is literally open book.
Yeah, they do not fear him as an actual God who can do something to them.
Yeah.
So they've definitely gone into full-blown apostasy in their minds. They've forgotten, they forgot about Yahweh. It's worse than forgetting about Dre. They forgot about Yahweh. I bet AI can make a really good song about that. Hey, something that came to mind, though, I wanted to point out real quick from 17, I forgot to talk about. Look at this. O Yahweh, the hope of Israel, all who abandon you will be put to shame. All who turn away will be written in the dust. They've abandoned Yahweh, the fountain of living water. I think this is what Christ was referring to when he started writing in the dust when they were accusing Matthew 8 and they were accusing the woman. He said, he's that sin, throw the first stone. He just starts writing in the dust and they all start walking away one by one. If he started just, that would have been an indicator. You're here unrighteously trying to murder this woman. Even she may be guilty, but you're doing this against the law.
Yeah.
So you're trying to unrighteously judge this woman. And here goes Christ, who's been talking about, hey, I'm the Messiah here. They would know that a prophet and Messiah would have the authority to judge them. And he starts writing like Jeremiah in the dust.
That's absolutely putting them to shame in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Like that moment it's more than just a point being made to the future reader. Like it's a serious social misconduct, basically.
He's telling all the people watching, these accusers, they've turned away from Yahweh. Let's write their names in the dust.
Yeah. That's a good connection.
Yeah.
Because that's always been one of the most mysterious. What did he write in the dust?
I don't think it was what he wrote. I think it was the act of writing in the dust. In their viewing, in the context of what was happening, these people were acting extremely wicked. They turned away from Yahweh. And it's a sticky situation because the woman was caught in adultery. That's the claim. It doesn't say they lied, but they don't have both witnesses there, and they're not bringing her before the judges properly. They're bringing her before whom in their minds they think is a false guy who's claiming to be a prophet, and he's really not. So they're doing all this wrong.
Yeah.
All of it wrong. But yet the woman may still been guilty. But yet,
He told her to go and sin no more.
did.
It's always been assumed she was guilty.
but even then, he didn't take the bait of, oh, she's guilty, let's gang up on her. No, he was like, wait a minute, justice is not being done here. You guys are profaning Yahweh's name by doing injustice. Micah 6:8. You're not walking in Micah 6:8. So therefore, you have turned your heart from Yahweh, and he's writing in the dust in front of them. Like that seems like a powerful condemnation.
Yeah, I mean, the Torah guarantees due process, and she was not getting her due process.
I guess the reason I thought about this, and I think about this in the vein of what we see from Ezekiel, Isaiah, and Jeremiah being told to do these elaborate illustrations in the sight of the people to condemn the wicked people.
Yeah, the living parables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that seems like one.
Yes.
To write in the dust in their presence.
Absolutely.
Seems like one, because what happens to that dust? It quickly is going to get whatever he wrote
trampled on.
It's going to get washed, pushed aside. It's going to be, scraped over.
Yeah.
It's not permanent. Like, I'm just out of my own interpretation because I've never seen an interpretation about this, but it seems as if to write in the dust in regards to judgment for someone means that it's temporary. It's not a lasting thing. The people that are being judged are temporary and they're not lasting. They're just going to be wiped away with the next foot or with the next wind.
And that is such a stark contrast to being written in the book of life,
right?
Because the dust is earthy. And that's what we're made from. But the goal is to be written in the book of life, which is heavenly, and your name is not, removed from it. So yeah, I like that concept, babe.
All right. So that's Jeremiah 18.
Okay.
There's a lot there.
How's our guy doing?
He's still asleep.
Okay.
So, guys, if you do have any questions, you're welcome to. We'll do our best to try to address them as long as my voice can last. So, yeah, you're welcome to put them in the live chat, put them in all caps, make it easy to see. I'll try to get to as many as possible.
Incarnate Unlimited. I mean, I'm kind of like, what if he was writing their names? Because that's literally the reference there in Jeremiah. Is writing names in the dust. So I don't know. I think names. If he was writing anything specific, to me, having no other verse that I've been shown that is a reference to that exact action, it's talking about names being written in the dust. So,
yeah. And between these three chapters, it's all in the context of Yahweh's going to judge you wicked people.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's people within Israel who've abandoned Yahweh.
Whose hearts have turned away.
And are acting like they're not.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what the Pharisees
That's exactly what they were doing. Yeah.
Hey, Gene, this is just your load would be associated with your work, just like in Exodus 35:4, when it talks about not kindling a fire. It's about your vocation. So the same thing with the descriptions of not carrying a load on the Sabbath and Jubilees 2 in chapter 50. It's all in the context of your vocation, the things associated with your vocation. So back in the day, they typically didn't have external warehouses or a strip mall where your business was, So I don't know if you ever run a business, but like it's very common within the businesses and even in the strip malls, they got a back room where they got storage materials, supplies, all kinds of stuff related to their business that they are moving in and out of the business on a regular basis. They got to go to Sam's Club and get more reams of printer paper or ink toner or whatever. Now, if you're in an industrial manufacturing setting, it's even a bigger scale usually. And you'd have a separate loading dock and you got all this kind of stuff. But back in the day, they usually had their businesses attached to their homes, not physically attached, but like on their property. And so it was that, yes, they did have a market or a bazaar, but it wasn't filled with like CNC machine shop. Or, it wasn't like usually it was the other types of businesses that wasn't related to perishable items that you found in the bazaar was done from their homes. And so there's a lot of little things that come along when you're running a business from your home that requires you to carry stuff in and out of your property in your house related to your business. So it's all about business related stuff. Devin, sign up for the classes is easy. It's about go in the video description below. It's either the membership or the Patron levels. The Berean level is, I believe that's the $5 level. and that's the one that you get. You get access to the replays of all the live classes. But if you want to attend the live classes, then you would sign up for the Brave or higher levels, and those get you access to. I'll send the link to those people that are in those categories, those tiers. I'll send you the live link to attend the live classes. Now, if you don't use Patreon, I suggest using Patreon first and foremost. But if you don't use Patreon and you're going to use the YouTube memberships, then if you're a part of the qualifying tiers, email me at kingdomofcontext.com with your YouTube handle so I can have your email to send you the links. Okay. Because there's no way for me to communicate instantly within YouTube to my members. So you have to email me, and then I'll add your email to the mass emails that go out for the links. And it's that easy. It's that easy. We don't really make a big deal about a lot of translations, Flatless. I haven't studied the intricacies of the NKJV versus the traditional KJV, other than the these and the thous. I haven't studied the scholarly differences. I couldn't really speak on that very well, brother. I apologize.
For me, it just comes down to occasionally I might prefer an NKJV rendering of a specific verse just because I like the flow of the words over a different translation, but it's just a verse by verse type thing. Sean and I utilize Bible Hub a ton, and we look at all kinds of translations. And for me, just for like daily reading, I enjoy something like the NASB. I think the one I'm reading right now, that's my Nana's Bible, is the ESV.
That's a very contemporary English translation.
Yeah, and it's just about the ease of reading for us. It's not about accuracy, and because that's why you look at all different kinds of translations. And oftentimes Sean and I would say my favorite translation, would have to be the Septuagint, just in terms of, occasionally I feel like there's some clarity that can come from the Septuagint because it's that older translation of the Old Testament.
So just a real quick, what we do when you see me reading this, I'm using Bible Hub, okay? You've got all these different translations you can pull from. I usually use the Berean Standard Bible translation because it's so close to the KJV wording, but it's kind of modernized in modern English. As far as the sentence structure, the choice of words used. So as far as ease for people to follow along while I'm teaching, this seems to be the best one. This is the one that we decided to put for our contextual study guide that we're building. So that people can just, so people can just read it in a modern English without being overwhelmed. And it doesn't seem too far away from what some people will view as the most word for word translation from the old KJV. So that's why I choose to read from this one publicly all the time. So like when you get down, but you can click on Bible Hub, you can click on the actual highlighted number here. I'm going to click on number 3, verse 3, and it just gives you all the translations to contrast to compare instantly. Like it's a super wonderful free resource that you can go through, and you can just like, oh, look at all these. That you can even go the old Latin Bible and go the old Catholic Bible. You can look at all kinds. You can do the Lamsa, the Syriac Bible, and the Peshitta, which is also Syriac, and of course the Septuagint's down there as well. So you got all these different translations quickly to cross-reference and compare. So I think that's a very helpful free resource that I try to recommend people at least consider. There's no perfect translation. Yeah, you make food in general incarnate on Shabbat. So go type in the YouTube search bar, Kingdom in Context, can I cook on the Sabbath? Did a whole video on this. Yes, it is lawful to cook food on the Sabbath. You want to be able to sustain your family. Tracy's asking, do y'all think Apollyon himself comes up from the pit, or the spirit of Apollyon comes up and enters someone? No, it's Apollyon himself comes up from the pit is open. So the beginning of Revelation 9, verse 1, an angel with the key to the abyss comes and opens the abyss. That means it's closed. So with the key specifically, opens the abyss. There's already demons that supposedly run around the earth. And this is the part where I think Middle Age folklore and mythology kind of have confused a lot of modern day Christians. They think that demons come from hell. That's not what the Bible says. There's 9/10 of unclean spirits that are locked away are locked away in the earth until Revelation 9. But in the meantime, we're told that they exist within the air, the sublunary between the earth and the firmament. They exist in the upper air. That's Ephesians 6. And so they're running through the earth, seeking whom they can devour as a part of Satan's minions. And as Luke 11 teaches us, with Christ explaining that they go from house, they go into dry and arid places, seeking another place to abide in, or another person to abide in. So there's not just this constant traffic from beneath the earth, from this, this mythological Dante's Inferno type hell where demons are just coming and going on a regular rotation. This isn't Hollywood. This isn't the movie Constantine, right? The Bible tells very specifically nothing's coming up out of the earth until Revelation 9. And that's when an angel opens up the abyss specifically for this agent of chaos and judgment to come out and start attacking the nations.
Is Apollyon the reanimated Nimrod?
That's what it.
All right. I mean,
that's what we talk about.
Okay.
I believe, yeah.
Because Satan, he's not Apollyon. He's
No.
he's about and roaming. He doesn't need to be released from a.
Yes,
a
Satan's
pit.
already on the earth. He's the one in Revelation 13. He gives his authority to Apollyon for 42 months to go and make war against the nations. Hopefully that helps. And do I think he will reveal himself as Apollyon? That's the question. I don't know. I highly doubt that he's going to use that old school word. But with modern AI, he could use, like, you could have it translated into everyone's different national understandings of the ancient god they're expecting. Like, he can call himself Shiva to the Indians. He can call himself Apollo to the Greeks. He can call himself Thor to the Norse, right? But I don't know African spirituality and what their gods' names were, but he can call himself that to them, because as the modern technology gets so advanced, he's trying to communicate to all the people, and it's instantly translated. It'll just be translated to whatever he wants to say to them according to what they need to hear. This was what they did in the past anyway. This is why the same pantheon of gods presented themselves with different trappings, different clothes, different makeup, different attaches to relate to the cultures they went to deceive, all simultaneously at the same time. Like, they would go out to the different nations on a tour, if you will, and go present themselves to the different, like, there's ancient writings about the Egyptians would only see Osiris once a year.
Mm-hmm.
And he would come in and do adjudication and present himself as God and make judgments and give gifts to dignitaries and then leave. And so, anyway, just something to consider. He could, but he doesn't have to, because I think he's going to make himself as relatable as possible to all the different people groups, languages, and tongues that he's trying to deceive into worshiping his idol. Because he's the one that sits in the temple and declares himself to be God. Torah Forever with Meshach is asking, Galatians 3:13, Christ has redeemed us from the curse of the law of being a curse for us, for it's written, cursed is everyone that hangs on a tree. Why does Christ need to be a curse for us? So the language here is not literal. He didn't literally sin, so he's not literally being a curse. It's spoken of because he's hung on the tree, and there's that similarity there of, in ancient Israel, the Torah instructed that a person who committed a sin unto death would be killed, but then their body after dead would be hung on the tree as a testimony to the community that this person has been accursed by God, meaning given the death penalty by God through the judges. And since Christ was falsely accused, condemned unto death, publicly made a spectacle of by his death, even though it was in the hands of the Romans and not the priests of the temple, that's the allusion, that's the allegory that he's drawing upon from this Deuteronomy passage about the body being hung on the tree. And because they also pulled Christ down before sunset to prepare his body, that was synonymous with the instructions from Deuteronomy not to let the body be hanging past sundown. So he is receiving a public death, even though he didn't deserve it. And even though it's under the hands of the Romans with a different instrument of death, the person in Deuteronomy that Galatians 3 is calling back to, they weren't crucified. That's not what Yahweh prescribed for the death penalty. They were probably stoned, and then their dead body was placed on a tree as a testimony to people. They weren't placed on a tree alive and gruesomely tortured, mocked, spit on, beat, stabbed with a spear, given a sponge of liquid you can't drink. Like they weren't done all that too, right? They were quickly killed with stoning, and then their dead body was put on the tree for a testimony to the community that Yahweh is serious about the death penalty. So it's not a one-to-one analogy. It's not. It's just a quick reference. It's a quick callback in Galatians 3. So Christ didn't literally sin, so he's not literally a curse. It's spoken of as he became a curse for us, as those who are cursed are hung on a tree. It's spoken of as. It's just like in Isaiah 53, where he's talking about his death as well. It refers to him as a guilt offering. Well, a guilt offering is not someone that committed a sin unto death and was hung on a tree in ancient Israel. It's a totally different comparison and analogy within the same prophesied death of the Messiah. So this is why Paul does this often. He makes quick references back to the Torah, assuming that you've read the Torah and that you understand the context he's making. But he's not doing a one-to-one. Just like in Romans chapter 6, where he says, we have been buried with Christ and are raised with Christ. Neither of those things have happened to you. But metaphorically, in faith and belief, you are buried with him, and so therefore you're raised with him in expectation of the resurrection to come. But you have not been crucified, buried in the heart of the earth buried in a tomb that was not your own, went to Sheol for 3 days, and then was resurrected to eternal life yet. You haven't done none of that. These are metaphors playing upon things from previous scriptures, assuming that you know them.
Assuming that you know them is the key phrase.
All right. NZSW is asking thoughts on Jeremiah 49, 39. I really don't, brother. So I'm a little hesitant. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this type of question. We did try to address our general sentiments about world conflict at the beginning in great depth as we read these chapters today. And so just give me 1 second and let me just take a quick look here. Yeah, I see what you're saying about, or I see what you're implying by saying, what do I think about this passage? I don't think modern day Iran is a historically. Okay, so this is exactly the type of political commentary I didn't really want to jump into today. Long story short, brother, this prophecy was for the people of Persia in the days of Zedekiah. So this is there's a lot of transition of power between the days of Zedekiah to even the days of the Maccabees. You got Alexander the Great came in and conquered all of them. So between then and then they were given back some sense of sovereignty, but then they went into they were there getting controlled by the Romans. And then there's a whole history of the people of Iran that I don't personally believe that particular passage is speaking about right now. If that's your inference, I'm trying to be, give you a good faith answer, but clearly I'm not interested in discussing international politics with Iran today. I'm just trying to keep it with the scriptures so people can be edified. So,
Sean and I have talked numerous times throughout the series of doing these middle books of how often I have realized so many of these prophecies that I have seen pastors take from these books and apply to modern day current events. When you actually read through them in the proper context of the time frame and look at who's being prophesied to, and then you go look at the historical timeline that shows when a lot of these things were fulfilled, you start to realize most of these prophecies in these middle books were for the people at those time, and a lot of those prophecies have been fulfilled throughout history through the rising and falling of nations over time. So that's one thing I try to keep in mind while I'm reading those middle books is that, wait a minute, before I apply this to whatever's going on right now, I need to remember this place was called Elam at that time. And this was, prophecy given directly to them. in the midst of all these other prophecies given to leaders of other nations at that time, who, said leaders eventually fell according to those prophecies. So that's just another thing to keep in mind. It's really easy to get caught up in the bumper sticker end times news going on constantly. But remember, guys, that's an industry and your attention is currency. And there is an incentive for people to keep that particular doom machine constantly going. So
Chuck is asking, the story of the rich young ruler in Matthew, when he asked Jesus which commandments he should keep, I wonder why Jesus didn't include the Sabbath. Well, Chuck, he didn't include dozens and dozens of other commandments either that Yahweh calls eternal and part of our righteousness. So again, he's having a quick conversation. This is why he gives you a kind of an abbreviated list of commandments from Exodus 20, but doesn't give all. And then he follows up with Deuteronomy 15, which is about almsgiving to the poor. And so it's an abbreviated conversation, and it's not intended to be, oh, Jesus is now going to list every single commandment.
Yeah, the exhaustive list of what qualifies, because I don't think he mentions sexual immorality.
There's dozens and dozens.
I don't think he mentions,
none of us should ever promote or do.
Yeah.
So it's an abbreviated conversation. Even in Jesus's first reply to the guy, he says, "Well, you know the commandments," and he starts listening. Like he's inferring immediately.
Yeah.
That this rhetoric attitude of, "What are you doing, man? What are you asking me this for? You know the commandments."
Yeah.
And he lists off a few, and the guy's like, "Well, I've done all these since my youth." And he's like, "What do I lack?" And Jesus is like, "Okay, you want to get specific on what you lack?" And then he goes directly to Deuteronomy 15.
Right to the heart. Right to that guy's heart.
Flatless is asking about, is our calendar due Passover on April 7th? I believe that's the day of it.
I think that's the day, yeah.
Yeah, this year.
Evening of, right?
Yeah.
Because then the 8th would technically be the actual Sabbath.
Bathsheba, you asking, someone recently told you, a biblical scholar recently told you, women should never wear zizi in their garments. Instead, they should only be a talit. Thoughts? I don't see that anywhere in scripture. So if you got kind of a more pointed verse that they're going off of, otherwise it sounds like an interpretation, and there's lots of different interpretations on different biblical passages.
I will say that every Torah teacher I've seen that teaches something different about women concerning just the tassels, they always selectively choose a translation of the verse that says, "This to the sons of Israel, speak to the sons of Israel." So they try to make the case that, see, Moses is only speaking to the sons of Israel right here. So it's only the men of Israel who are called to wear these tassels, when it can also be translated the children of Israel. And that phrase is used for all these other commandments that are given to the people. So if you're saying only women should do this commandment somehow differently because it's only addressed to the sons, you have to apply that to all of Leviticus 11. I mean, you have to apply that to every other commandment that came after, speak to the sons of Israel. So
Mac is asking, can you explain how Jubilees is accurate about how Eve was created? I want to be able to explain it accurately. I don't know if I quite understand the question. Does your question assume that Jubilees is somehow different from Genesis? Or is your question that you don't understand the wording inside Jubilees and somehow think it's inaccurate to something else like Genesis? I'm a little confused. If you could please clarify, because otherwise it's relatively straightforward. Jubilees chapter 3, relatively straightforward about, when Eve was created, just like, she's one of his ribs, that she was built from the flesh, just like we're told in Genesis, she was made from one of his ribs, bone of bone, flesh of flesh. Adam was put to sleep. When he awoke, after this surgery had taken place, Yahweh took the rib and made Eve. So yeah, if you just want to clarify, I'll be glad to get to it, but I just need some clarification.
Yeah, as far as I recall, it's pretty much the same as described in Genesis. Isn't Rosh Kodesh a Jewish?
Yeah, hang on a second. It just went away. King is asking, when do I celebrate Rosh Chodesh? I don't. I mean, if you're talking about the modern Judaism calendar, where they believe they celebrate that as the
It's
first
the
of the
fall.
new year,
I thought it was the fall.
in like
Yeah.
September or whatever.
It's like their second New Year or something.
We go by the Zadok calendar, which would be our Rosh Chodesh would be the first new moon of the first. So it's going to be like 14 days, but it's like approximately coming up here in like 2 weeks, like March 24th, something like that.
Yeah.
Would be the first new moon of the new Levitical calendar according to the Zalek calendar. So we don't call it Rosh Chodesh. We just call it the new moon, the first of the year, first day of the year. It's the first new moon. Okay, Heat Seeker Pepper Eaters asking, would Exodus 16, 22, and 23 teach to prepare your food on Shabbat on the preparation day and not cook on Shabbat?
If your food is manna from heaven, specifically.
Yeah, the Exodus 16 thing was, remember the man on the 6th day, they had to get a double portion, and that was the only day that it wouldn't rot. So they could cook, that was the only day they had to cook it up twice to have enough for the 7th day because it rotted overnight. So this is where, the manna itself was like ice crystals on the ground. Like it's like dew from heaven. It's very sensitive stuff. How it cooks into bread like wheat is just amazing.
Well, it's actually a grain. They ground it into flour. It's really cool when you realize that.
The grain doesn't melt in the noonday sun.
No, it doesn't. It's clearly a different kind of grain.
Heavenly food.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that this is anyway, that's a side tangent. The point is, no, that was just for their instructions because of it melted. They had to pick it up before it melted, right? That's not normal, right? So we're dealing outside of the realm of a normal situation here. There is no standing lasting, because again, Leviticus 23, 1-3, Sabbath is a day of festival and feasting. It's a feast day of Yahweh. It's a holy convocation and a feast day. It's a day you eat food. So yes, you can cook your food. You're not doing work. Again, the command for Exodus for the Shabbat is that you don't do your vocational labor. Cooking food for your family is not getting you profit. It's not vocational labor. That is your daily duties to keep people alive. Mm-hmm. So this is it's like a categorical conflation from Judaism that tries to claim you can't cook anything on the Sabbath because you're working. That's like saying you can't pick up your mat on the Sabbath because you're working.
Yeah.
They made up extra rules, guys. We got to go back to what the Bible actually says. Now, in the context of Exodus 16, they're dealing with a very precarious situation. With the manna melted before noonday, they got to pick it up quick, and they got to get a double portion because it's not going to fall on the 7th day, and it rots by the next morning. So you need to cook it up so you can have some extra food for you. Now, this was also all the while they're eating manna. Or excuse me, they're eating the quail.
Yes, that's what I was going to say is actually what you should be doing is zooming out to the whole chapter, because when you zoom into only those 2 verses, that's how you get this rule that actually doesn't exist. The whole chapter is about the manna and the quail. And the only time they're commanded to cook and boil anything ahead of time is specifically when he's talking about the manna. They're never told to cook the quail ahead of time, right? Because they can, they should prepare it in terms of having it slaughtered, but they're allowed to cook the quail. There's no commandment regarding cooking the quail ahead of time. Also, the command to cook things ahead of time is never repeated after Exodus 16, but the command to keep the Sabbath is multiple times. And other things that are related to keeping the Sabbath are also repeated multiple times. This command to cook things ahead of time, never repeated. It's only commanded in the direct context of the manna. Yeah. Is he up?
He's up. We got to go, guys. We appreciate you being here with us. Thank you for sharing the Sabbath with us to study Jeremiah and talk about other scriptures. And next week we'll pick up 19 through 21. And Jeremiah, we can start adding more chapters if you like.
No, 3 is plenty, babe. Okay. Takes us long enough to get through 3.
Okay. And so
I want to make sure we have time to, to actually chit chat with everybody in the chat.
Well, because Jeremiah's a longer book, right? I think that, I think it would be a good break. We can jump into a New Testament book before we jump into something like Isaiah or Ezekiel. So,
sorry, Resner just
he's distracted.
I'm sorry, my dog just totally bombed me.
Yeah, we're gonna go. All right, so appreciate you guys. Thank you for being here. Like, share, and subscribe. start our classes for the basic and advanced courses on Monday and Tuesday. You can see those in the post on YouTube, free post to look at on Patreon. Link is in the description below. All the dates and everything available. I got to update them as well, but they're there for you to get your first bearing, as well as which tiers apply. You can check them out. If you want to sign up, now's the time to do it between now, Monday and Tuesday. Basic and advanced courses. Please do not sign up for the advanced course if you've not taken the basic. It's that simple. Thank you guys. Be blessed. We'll see you next time.
Thank you guys. We really, truly love and appreciate you so much.